Okay, so today we're in topic 2.3 of HR, management and leadership. Right now, we're just going to look at management. So, when we talk about management, I'm talking about the process of coordinating and administrating an organization's resources in order to efficiently and effectively reach your goals, okay? So your managers, they coordinate, they organize all of your organization's resource to get efficiency, to get effectively and great output, okay? To reach those goals, tasks, okay? Your roles of management can be broken down to these 6 things, okay? Which I've put in an anagram by IB called POCDO, okay? So, first we have planning, organization, commanding, controlling, coordinating, and delegating. Now, this last one here I'll get to in a minute. First off, planning. So obviously, in order to the process of coordinating and administrating, you need to plan out everything. Okay, you need to plan out what your employees can do, when stuff will happen. Okay, in order to meet your actual goals. And organization. You need to organize the effective use of resources, the efficient use of resources to make sure that you're not over exploiting or overusing in other aspects. Third, commanding. You need to tell your employees what they need to do, okay? You need to tell them tasks. Controlling. You need to ensure control in your workforce, okay? You know, make sure people are listening to you and actually doing what they're doing, okay? And people are maybe not making mistakes. Coordinating. This is also with your employees. You're managing your employees to work together, work around each other, work efficiently and effectively. And delegating goes with commanding. It's giving them the authority to complete tasks, okay? Which is a vital aspect of a manager. So when we talk about management, there are 2 types of management. We have scientific management and intuitive management, okay? Scientific management is in its name. Decision making and problem solving based on the gathering of necessary data, then analyzing that data to make informed decisions, okay? With scientific management, you are a lot more scrutinous with the data and a lot more effort and very inward looking within data, okay? So you make your decision based off data. So this kind of is a very less risky strategy because you are using lots of evidence to actually help you. Secondly, we have the second method of management, intuitive management, okay? This is the decision making and problem solving based on instinct and team experience rather than scientific methods like scientific management, okay? So this is like your gut feeling and what you believe is right based off the experience you have, okay? And the actual skills you uphold. Now, in a great world, actually, in our world right now, as a manager, you should aim to be a mix of scientific and intuitive because you should input your own instincts and your own experience onto necessary data and analysis, okay? Because a mix of both types of management is the best way to go about. But the context really matters. If you are a manager in a pharmaceuticals industry, then you will be specifically more tailored towards the scientific management because there's so much data to analyze there. Whereas if you're a very people-orientated business, okay, intuitive management is probably better because then you can rely on your instincts and your experience a lot more. But remember, both of these managers have to go about these roles of management, and it is always best to do it a combined mixed approach. Yeah. Okay, so now we move on to the leadership aspect of 2.3. First, before I go into the leadership styles, let me differentiate between management and leadership, okay? So leadership is the idea of influencing others to achieve your goal or vision, to make them the best of themselves, like to make people the best of themselves. So managers were involved with the organization and the coordination and planning of the employees to achieve your goals, whereas your leaderships and your leaders in your business, they influence people, they motivate people, okay, to achieve that goal, and they basically make the people to their best extent, okay? So managers do leaderships basically teach you how. You know what I mean? So let's go into leadership styles now. Right now we have 3 leadership styles over here, but we actually have 5, okay, which we'll get the other 2 later. We have autocratic, democratic, and laissez-faire, okay? Now, autocratic leadership is a leadership style that involves authoritative and centralized decision making without consulting others or their views, okay? So it's very in its name. It's authoritative, it's autocratic, one person makes all the decisions, okay? Now, that may sound super bad, but there's advantages and disadvantages to how this works. So the advantages is that as an autocratic leader, it ensures that the leaders have complete control, okay? And why is that good, you may ask? It's because when one person has complete control, the decision making is so much quicker, okay? Because now that I'm not in a group or panel, one person makes a decision, they think about it, and yes, okay? Rather than a group of panel saying yes. If one person says no, it takes time to convince them. So since an autocratic leadership is very centralized, it speeds up decision making. Also, it provides you with and your business with a clear focus and a sense of direction, because one individual knows exactly what he wants for his business. So that means all the employees know exactly what they need to do, and what they have to be in the future. They have a clear focus, clear sense of direction. And another one that I haven't written down, but autocratic leaders are especially best during times of crises, because you need that decision making, you need that sense of direction during crises. But obviously, with the clear disadvantages is that your employee creativity and innovation is like swamped in your business. That's because you are making all the decisions. Everything is on you. Everything is on your order, okay? So then your employees don't have much chance to display their creativity and innovation, and thus that means it doesn't really allow them to develop lots of these internal talents of labor, okay? They have to be rigid to what you are telling them to do, and does not allow them to develop further and develop their internal talents, their labor talents, and become maybe more expertized in other methods which you will allow them to do. And autocratic leadership styles can also demotivate employees. But I'm not gonna lie to you, you're gonna have to if you say that, you're gonna have to specify specific types of people get demotivated, because not everyone gets demotivated by autocratic leaderships. For instance, high-skilled workers, okay, or they usually are the type of people to get demotivated by employees because they want to have their own input. Now, secondly, democratic leadership style, okay? This is the delegation of authority and consulting your subordinates during the process of decision making, okay? Now, this is what a lot of businesses do nowadays, okay? Because the advantages are here. It makes your workers feel very valued and motivated, because it makes them feel like they're part of the business and part of the business's decision makings, okay? Unlike autocratic leadership, where the leadership is in charge of everything, the democratic leadership allows your employees and your workers to have a sense of input, which improves a lot of stuff. And secondly, this ensures that most is made out of your employees' skills, okay? And you are fully utilizing your employees, because you're giving them an opportunity to present chances for them to do stuff in separate ways. Overall, that would increase your morality within your employees. That's increasing motivation, and it increases a sense of staff loyalty, which is really good to avoid high turnover rates, okay, which is the rate that people leave your business. Now, it also democratic leadership styles also have clear disadvantages. Okay, once you follow democratic leadership, in no matter what a sense, you will always it can always result in disharmony or disagreement because not every single person is going to agree with each other. So you're gonna have to be able to like resolve conflicts consistently in the democratic leadership. Secondly, as I was saying, it's also like you need to be like depending on the context. It is very ineffective during a crisis because it doesn't have that speediness, decision making, that clear focus that autocratic people have. Okay, because it can be very time consuming. So that means it doesn't make it that effective during crises. And third, we have something called laissez-faire leadership style, okay? This is the delegation of significant authority to your employees and giving them the full freedom to work in their own manner or in their own way with minimal supervision, okay? So this is kind of the idea of just letting your employees be free and doing whatever they want but giving them a set like goal or task to achieve, okay? Now, this can be very, very motivational for your employees because it gives them that sense of job satisfaction and job enrichment because they feel free to do whatever they want, okay? Like they can explore and be as creative, as innovative as possible. So now we can kind of see that as I'm saying this, it is very good in a creative industry, but maybe not other industries that I'll get into in a minute. Secondly, as a laissez-faire leadership style, you can help develop entrepreneurial environments or entrepreneurial cultures within your business, okay? This makes your employees start thinking more like entrepreneurs because they have to work more by themselves, okay? And this entrepreneurial skills are vital to have as your employees because they can provide great input into your business, which is very, very beneficial because not only does it provide input to your business, it also increases their just natural skills and abilities, making them more expertized and specialized. And third, most importantly, it helps build so much drive and passion within your business and is one of the highest ways to get staff loyalty. But it should be used carefully because you risk slack or you risk complacency so much with a laissez-faire. Because if you think about it, let's say you're a group, like if my teacher had let me and my friends in a group just to do whatever we want and said do this for a whole lesson, there's a high chance we won't be doing it, like we will be doing something else there. So when it comes to laissez-faire, you have a high risk of slack and you have to ensure in ways that slack does not occur, okay? Secondly, some people may like direction. They may like delegation and authority. So when we think about low skilled workers in factories, they don't need laissez-faire leadership, okay? Just tell them what to do, okay? They can do it and they can just consistently keep going. Not every single person likes complete freedom, okay? Sometimes you want people to tell you what to do, because it just makes your life easier and makes you focus on less things at once. So, such as low skilled workers in factories or something. Thirdly, this idea is once again linked to the risk of slack, is that monitoring and coordination is difficult without seeming too nosy, if you know what I mean, okay? So like you have to ensure that you monitor and coordinate in an effective way while maintaining your laissez-faire status without discouraging your employees, but still trying to risk lack. So it is very specific to context in which one you use. You just have to infer what you should use. Okay, so with leadership styles, okay, now we've covered democratic, we've covered autocratic, we've covered laissez-faire. Now we have paternalistic and we have situational. Let's look at paternalistic. Paternalistic leadership is one that involves decision making on behalf of your team in the best interest of their workers, okay? They look at their workers as part of their family, as one of their own family, and they do everything or most things in accordance for the best interest of their worker to make sure they're getting the best conditions possible. Now, obviously, And first advantage is that it would highly motivate your staff. Because if you think about it, if you're an employee and your leader is treating you like you are his part of his family and taking care of you so much, you'll be motivated so much to such an extent where you want to work for him and be super efficient and effective. Okay, it's because you can see someone is caring for you so much. This in turn promotes loyalty to leaders. Okay, it makes sure that your leaders structure instructions and decisions will be followed, and their future for the business and their goals for the business will be achieved and followed, because there's so much loyalty to the leaders. And it creates a sense of belonging in a business. Okay, because you feel like a family. Literally, you feel like a family and you would not want to leave. You want to work with everyone. It makes it such a collaborative environment, which reduces your turnover and increases your efficiency, and also increases your staff loyalty. However, as a paternalistic leader, communication is mainly top down. Okay, it is the owner telling people down, down, down. That is basically what top down means. Okay, like as an owner, I'm saying you here, 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 like here, here. Okay, mainly top down from the CEO here. This, okay, is in line with, because there's lots of centralized decision making. Okay, and this centralized decision making may ignore views. So like these are kind of aligned, because it could potentially negate the advantages you get from being paternalistic. Okay, because you are making the decisions very top down, negate these advantages. And secondly, it may create stakeholder conflicts, because, like, such as in a publicly held company, there could be conflicts between shareholders and your CEO, because maybe you took a deal that increases cost by 10% to increase wages by 10%. That will create large conflict and resistance from your shareholders as a stakeholder, and create that conflict, which is very time consuming for CEOs and leaders to deal with. Now, when we talk about situational leadership, this is not a leadership style. It is literally the leadership style. It is a leadership style, but it is the leadership, or the type of leader that every leader should be aspiring to be. Okay, because it is so, in literally, situational leader has the ability to change leadership style based on the circumstances they are faced with. Okay, and why most leaders should be doing this, why it's so good, why it's advantageous, is because it is the most practical leadership style right now and almost forever. Because we live in a world, or like our whole world right now is so volatile, and so many things can happen, and a lot of things are consistently happening, especially as a leader. Nothing is ever going to be a straight line. You'll always go through ups and downs. Okay, so you need to make sure you are adaptive in this world to any circumstances that you can face, in order to be the most practical and most efficient type of leader. Okay, however, as a situational leader, this may not fit all employees, because some employees might be unsettled with this change of leadership. It could give them an unstable view of how the company's direction or sense of purpose or direction is. For instance, maybe low-skilled workers, they just want an autocratic leadership. They don't want you switching from autocratic to democratic. They preferred it when it was autocratic. That creates a sense of distrust, or like deepened mistrust. And secondly, as a situational leader, you require lots of experience. That's not something you can just pick up straight away. You need to have experience being autocratic, being democratic, being laissez-faire, being paternalistic, how to work around, and how to actually be adaptive. That is why it requires lots of experience, and not something these new leaders can just immediately come in and do. So, that is all of 2.3.